Andy Reid has been the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs for 13 seasons. This will be the 14th time the Chiefs play the Buffalo Bills in those 13 seasons. Crazy. And the 6th time the Chiefs will go to Buffalo in that span. This edition of Defending the Kingdom is going to talk about the 14th time and the 6th time. And, of course, it's all brought to you by Ticketmaster. A lot of you are going to Buffalo for this game from the Chiefs' Kingdom. Ticketmaster has probably already been there for you or could be if you want to go.
Snap to Mahomes, retreating, moving to his right. Now pump faking, throws it lane wide open, touchdown! Kansas City!
Hi, everyone. I'm Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs, along with senior team reporter Matt McMullen. Is it not crazy that we're going to play Buffalo 14 times in 13 years?
It's nuts because if you look back at like when Coach Reid's tenure started here, like in 2013, if I told you the Chiefs and the Bills will be like the new Colts and Patriots for 10 years, I'm not sure anyone would have believed that. Always an awesome showdown whenever we play the Bills, whether it's in the regular season or the playoffs. Obviously, it's Mahomes and Allen. I mean, these are the kind of games and the kind of matchups we'll talk about in 20, 30 years. Pretty cool. We get to live it.
What's nuts, the Chiefs are 4-1 in the games at Buffalo since Coach Reid has been the head coach here, and 4-4 in the games at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. However, the key wins are the playoff wins at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. But the fact that the Chiefs, I don't think, if you polled people around of like, what's the Chiefs' record in 5 games at Buffalo under Andy Reid, I'm not sure a lot of people would guess 4-1.
I wouldn't have guessed that either. Almost had them last year, too. That's the thing with these games is they're almost all close. Like, almost all of them come down to, like, the very final possession. It's exactly how you'd, like, kind of imagine it if this was all, like, a movie or something and you had these 2 great quarterbacks and these great teams, and it comes down to who has the ball last. I think that trope is sometimes, like, overused. Like, that doesn't actually normally happen most of the time, but with the Chiefs and Bills, it does. And really, in just about all of these games, except for maybe a couple, it comes down to the very final possession, the final play. That was the case last year. We'll talk about some of our favorite and least favorite Bills memories, but it's always intense, that's for sure.
And expected to be intense again in Week 9 as the Bills take on the Kansas City Chiefs. All right, let's go around the world to get ready for this one. Around the world now it's taking on a new meaning, although the Monday night game was the first time in the last 4 games I've not been stopped at the International Walk.
Really?
Only from my vehicle.
Okay.
To where I go through the gate to get in. It's the first time, really, in the last 4 games, I have not been stopped by somebody from around the world to go, hey. So I was kind of looking around, like anybody here from
like Lithuania?
Malaysia? Yeah, no.
Armenia?
Yep. I thought there were some Armenians there, but got to be. So they were from America City, Kansas.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, I got a few for you today. Shout out to Hunter in Martin, Tennessee. Is that where UT Martin is, I'm guessing?
UT Martin, home of the Skyhawks.
Skyhawks is pretty good.
That's a good one.
I like that. You'll love this one. We heard from Rudy in Emmerich, Germany. He became a fan in 2022 because of his future son-in-law, a lifelong fan who got him into this whole thing, and now he's fully on board. Pretty cool.
Wait a minute. The son-in-law was a lifelong friend?
Fan.
Chiefs, okay.
Yeah.
So the son-in-law is a lifelong fan. Okay, good.
Yeah.
And if you're going to have somebody marry your daughter, then you want to be a lifelong Chiefs Kingdom fan.
Rudy jumped on board. I love it.
Way to go, Rudy.
We have a listener from Pančevo, Serbia. Probably butchered that one, but from Serbia. I think that's a new one. I'm not sure we've had anyone from Serbia.
I don't think we had anyone from Serbia.
Yeah.
Really good.
Shout out to you.
Cool.
Shout out to Kimberly in Pennsylvania. Don't know where exactly in Pennsylvania, though.
Reading?
Probably Reading, yes.
Shingle House. I think it's Shingle House, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I got a few of those this week. Like it's Reading.
Went to East Stroudsburg.
You know, apparently Taylor Swift is from Reading.
I think Taylor Swift's from a lot of places, but that's her hometown.
Someone mentioned that on YouTube. I don't know. All right, so Dane is the resident Pennsylvania expert. Like he's like the Tony Reale, checks the book, and he's pointing at it saying yes, thumbs up.
Did she live there all her high school there?
Okay, we're getting this. He doesn't know. Okay. He'll get back to us on that one. But anyway, we're finding these Chiefs connections all over the world. Tim is in Columbia, Missouri. Represent.
All right.
This one's
Battle
cool.
High School or Rockbridge High School or Hickman High School?
Good question. Let us know, Tim. Josh and Shiloh are in Kenya. They've claimed Nakuru, Kenya for the kingdom. Pretty cool. So Josh was born in Kansas City. He lives in Ohio. Shiloh is from Virginia, and now they're both serving as missionaries in Kenya. Listening to DTK in Kenya. I think that's so cool.
Love it. Love
Josh
our
and
missionary
Shiloh
Kingman fans. They're all
if
over.
you're listening right now and looking outside at like the beautiful Serengeti or something, just think of us and be like, man, Mitch and Matt would love this view right now. Shout out to Bo. So he was at the game on Monday with his family, and it was his daughter's first ever Chiefs game. Pretty cool. And she saw a good one. Good second half.
Where's Bo from?
I think right here in Kansas City.
Oh, okay.
I think. If not Bo, let me know. But I think you're from around here. Wanted to take a brief moment to remember my Aunt Joan. So my Aunt Joan passed away last week after some health battles. Her funeral was in Tennessee this past weekend before the game. Joan was awesome. She grew up in Tennessee and lived in New York most of her life. And I call her my Aunt Joan. She was actually my great aunt, but she had no kids of her own, so I was kind of like her grandchild, and she was like my grandma. And she had no connection or ties to the Chiefs or to Kansas City, except for my mom and I. And she became like the biggest Chiefs fan ever and was so into this and would watch our shows and do everything and text me after games. I know she enjoyed the game against the Commanders from up high. So, Joan, I'm thinking of you. And there is a tie in here as well. I did the crazy thing where I flew to Nashville on Saturday morning, went to the funeral, and then flew back. So I'd never done that before, where I flew to a place and flew back on the same day. But got to see some extended family, many of whom I had never met before, because these are like some cousins of my mom's that I had just never met because they live in Tennessee and I had never visited them. Well, I met one of them, and she said that she had a friend at work who kind of found out that I work for the Chiefs and everything. And he's like, oh, she didn't say my name, though. He's like, oh, I love the Chiefs. I listened to this podcast, Defending the Kingdom. Yeah. She's like, I think he's on that. So I have his name here. Shout out to Eric Johnson, listens to DTK, small world. So shout out to you, Eric. Thanks for listening.
Eric's from Tennessee, though.
Yep. Yeah, the Franklin, Tennessee area.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
But great aunts that don't have children are usually great for spoiling their nephews and nieces.
Yeah, we had a great time. Like my sister and I, we would get these incredible birthday gifts, and she would go over the top. She was awesome. She would text me all the time after games. She loved this run of Chiefs football and how happy it made me. So she was awesome, and Joan, I'm thinking of you.
Had the same kind of great aunt Elvie. Yep, always had squirt pop. And I don't know if my parents forbade it or not, but if it was to go stay with them for a time was great, and just attack the squirt pop.
That's awesome.
Crazy bottle. But anyway, it's the Chiefs and the Bills. The Chiefs trying to get to 6-3. The Bills are trying to get to 7-2. Bills have. Both the Chiefs and Bills are looking up in their division. The Bills are looking up at the New England Patriots as Mike Vrabel has transformed that team. And, of course, we have seen the Denver Broncos do some crazy good things here over the past month. But here go the Chiefs in another showdown game with the Bills on this Sunday one. But it makes me think of, oh, my gosh, 14 times we've gone there in 13 years. 14 times to play them in 13 years, 6 times to go there. Last time we'll be in this stadium, as they're going to have their new stadium ready next year, and we're supposed to go there again next year.
Yeah.
So can't get enough of the lakes. So anyway, here we are with the Bills. But your thoughts on some reminiscing?
Yeah. Should we go back and forth on this?
Yeah, we can. I've got a couple are obvious, but one's I don't think not that obvious. What's your first one?
My first one is maybe the second happiest I've ever been on a non-Super Bowl Chiefs game day was walking off the field with you in Buffalo in 2023.
Divisional win.
Yeah. I can't explain the electricity going through our bodies walking off that field. So I spot for Mitch on the road, and every radio booth is different. So in Kansas City, it's way up high in the press box. There's no real communication with the fans or interaction. In Buffalo, that's an old stadium, right? And it kind of feels like a college stadium. And the radio booth is kind of built into the concourse with the fans. And there's a big glass divider between the radio booth and just a whole section of fans. And I'm sitting up against this glass divider. And that entire game, there was a Bills fan who is trying to get my attention. He is doing all kinds of things I can't talk about on this broadcast. He's yelling things at me, trying to get my attention. Every time the Bills did anything well or the Chiefs struggled and did anything poorly, he was letting me hear it the entire game. And then the Chiefs win. I look over, and he's long gone. And I'm just thinking to myself, we did it. And walking from that radio booth and walking onto the field with you and walking to the tunnel to go to Chiefs Rewind was just awesome. And, so many times you think about things in life, how you imagine it isn't how it actually ends up being. Like, your anticipation is greater than the actual payoff. Well, I said this was my second favorite. The first one was the AFC title game against the Bengals. That was one that I look back on. I'm like, man, that still kind of hits when I think about it. But that Bills game as well, we were so fired up for that game, and the payoff was such that I'm like, man, that was awesome. And looking back at it, it still pays off. So, yeah, that's my favorite memory ever against the Bills.
That barrier you talk about, which didn't used to be there.
Really?
So imagine that guy. Imagine that guy being right in front of you.
What?
If you were watching, if you're watching this podcast and not just listening, he would be standing right there in front of you. Yeah,
I mean,
the whole game.
I can't even imagine.
So one time, Len Dawson, of course, our great legendary quarterback for 25 years, worked with him on the broadcast. There were 4 guys just like right in front of us the whole game. That barrier wasn't there, screaming and wanting Len for an autograph. Hey, Len, autograph, Super Bowl. Hey, Super Bowl 4 MVP and Pro Football Hall of Fame. Len, yeah, Len. For one half. It is wearing me out. Len's ignoring him as much as they can. Finally, he's had enough. He's going to sign it.
Yeah.
So he signs like their program, and they immediately turn on him. Like, screw you, Len Dawson. They got their autograph, and that was it. So then they spent the rest of the time just taunting us. And so that barrier actually is more of a buffer than – I mean, it's nuts there. It is like a 1972 stadium that they're going to get rid of. But, yeah, they yell at you there the whole game. A good memory of mine was the 2013 season. We had to go there in Andy Reid's first season.
Yeah.
And – beat the Bills with 2 defensive touchdowns, including a 100-yard pick 6 by Sean Smith against Jeff Toole.
Yeah.
Who's, I think, in the Bills' Ring of Honor. I don't know. We'll look when he's right
he has a statue, Tasker. I believe.
Yeah. And so, Bruce Smith, and it's like Jeff Toole. So he throws
Jim Kelly.
Jim Kelly, Jeff Toole. He throws a 100-yard pick 6, and then Tamba had a scoop and score in that game.
Yeah.
And so that game put us at 9-0. After we were at 2-14. Now, we both have eras that we think are golden. I go back to my childhood, much farther than yours, but you love like the early 2000s. That 2013 season to me, that and winning that playoff game in 2015 were just cathartic because we started 9-0 after being 2-14, and we won at Buffalo. And it was a gritty, gutty win. We didn't do much on offense, but those 2 defensive touchdowns. And I remember going, yeah, like we're not terrible anymore. In fact, we're undefeated after 9 games, and we had a bye week right after that, just like this game, flying home from Buffalo with a win and getting ready for a bye. So that was one of those forgotten games. It's a great memory.
What I remember about that game is that was my sophomore year of college, I think.
Wow.
And my freshman year was the 2-14 year. And coming into that season in 2012, we actually had a lot of hope and energy, right? Because we were getting some guys back. Felt pretty good about it. Well, I went to Mizzou, and there's actually not a lot of Kansas City people at Mizzou. It's a lot of Chicago people, St. Louis people, Dallas people. Not a lot of Chiefs fans at Mizzou. And I was Mr. Chiefs fan guy, just wearing my jersey, wearing my Chiefs jersey, all that stuff. And there was one other guy there with me who was from Kansas City, from Warrensburg actually, but kind of like associated with Kansas City. And we watched every game, every second of the 2-14 season. And all of our friends were just like throwing fruits and vegetables at us and just hurling insults and just making fun of us, and we're just taking all of it. And yeah, that 9-0 start of 2013, that was like retribution. It was awesome. We were just insufferable. And I remember that Sean Smith pick 6 like yesterday. Off Jeff Toole.
I also watched every moment of that 2-14 season.
Yeah.
And
you doing a bit more than I was.
I was broadcasting it. Had vegetables thrown at me, too. Yeah. So much fun.
Yeah, I can't quite imagine doing this and Chiefs Rewind and everything during that. That's why you've earned this, my friend. All right, I'll give you some more obvious ones. Another awesome one. How about just last year? Last year was something special, and it's tough. The 13 seconds game falls in this bucket as well, which obviously is part of all this, that when the season doesn't end with a championship in this era of Chiefs football, it's kind of crazy to say it, but we kind of just forget about it, right? I mean, we move on because Patrick Mahomes' standard would say that season was a failure, even if it's not necessarily a black and white failure. But we don't really talk about that win last year in the AFC Championship game because we lost the Super Bowl. Well, that game was still pretty awesome, and I found myself at times during the offseason, if it was on TV or I was just on YouTube and saw some highlights from it, and I'm like, man, that game was pretty cool. That game was pretty special, and the Chiefs did a pretty awesome thing winning that game. There's a picture in the hallway around the corner from our studio of George hitting Josh Allen when Allen's letting go of the football on 4th down. It's like an unbelievable picture. I mean, Allen's airborne, George is airborne. To Allen's credit, he got the ball off, and was it Dawson Knox almost caught it? Or was it Kincaid? Yeah, Dalton Kincaid almost caught it. Just an incredible football game, and incredible win by the Chiefs to get that win. Didn't end in a Super Bowl championship, but a phenomenal back-and-forth game. And for the Chiefs to win that game, that was a big deal. So that's up there for me as well.
Yeah, the win in 2020 to get to Super Bowl 55 now didn't end well, but to win the AFC Championship game in the COVID year has a special meaning just because of that year was so rough. Getting your nose swabbed and not, thinking don't get Mahomes sick, don't get Kelsey sick or coach sick, and then yet we win the AFC Championship game 38-24 against a really good Bills team. And I just remember that moment of thinking of kind of persevering and fighting through it. And then there's the photo of Stephon Diggs, who did not leave the field.
Yeah.
He sat out there and watched our celebration as we got the Lamar Hunt trophy. And then I'll just translate real quick to negatives.
There are a few.
Would be the next year when Stephon Diggs is parading around in his uniform right behind our broadcast location for Chiefs Rewind. He's getting off like the elevator that goes up to the broadcast suite. Remember that?
Yeah,
and he's walking around in his uniform like, what are you doing, dude? Like, get out of here.
Yeah.
So
that was after that was like the rain game, right? There was the delay and
yeah. Well, and that was the same night. I'm getting my games mixed up here, but that was my other, because I had Royals in the booth. We had Royals in the booth. We had Salvador Perez and Nicky Lopez.
Yeah.
And we're getting crushed.
Yeah.
They're blowing us out, and I'm trying to fill time with these guys, and they're like, "Wow, I thought this was supposed to be kind of a cool deal."
And you're just,
and it was, no, we were just
annoyed. Just like,
it was brutal.
Yeah, that one's up there for me. The number one least favorite has to be the one where we had the miraculous Kelsey walk-off lateral to Kadarius and called back. I mean, that was just such a buzzkill for so many reasons. And you know what I remember about that though?
Pat lost it on that.
Listen. I try to be positive about everything, and that happened. I'm just like, that was a huge bummer. That really, really stinks, man. We had it, then we didn't. What's funny though is I will not reveal who the staff member is, but I remember the next morning I was in at work on Monday, and I was getting some coffee, and other staff member comes in, and we're just chatting about the game, and everyone's just kind of down, right? And they look at me and they say, listen, it's just not our year. And I'm like, well, listen, I mean, it's one game in November, and I mean, we were right there with them. It took this crazy fluke play to lose. We should have won. Like, I don't know. And we won the Super Bowl. So that's the silver lining of that one, is that was a real bummer. But I look back on that season. For me, the early struggles this year, I looked back on 2023 thinking this team has gone through a lot of adverse things before and situations where it's like, man, how do you come back from that? And they did. So that's why the Chiefs at any point in the year, they can be struggling. And I can say, okay, I've seen this story before and they've come out pretty good on the other side. But the morning after that game was pretty tough, I'll be honest.
But winning that divisional playoff game in 23,
yeah.
The whole narrative was Patrick Mahomes, hey, he can't win playoff games on the road. You remember that? That was the whole week narrative. Never played playoff.
No fault of his own. He had never played one.
It was interesting the way how he entered the plane. He's like the first guy I saw when I got on the plane. I go, oh, I guess you can't win playoff games on the road. And it goes, I think we took care of that, didn't we? Now we got to go to Baltimore the next week, but
and won.
So
that was cool.
So yeah. Anyway,
and then won the Super Bowl.
We're going to talk about this year's game, but let's just have a guest here on Defending the Kingdom of one of this year's players.
All right, we're joined now by a guy who filled the stat sheet on Monday night. It's Mike Danna. Mike, what's going on?
How you doing, Matt?
Yeah, doing great, especially after Monday and how this team's been performing. Overall question, how much fun are you guys having on defense right now, particularly with how you played in the second half last week?
Man, we're having so much fun. You know, a lot of guys are, getting to the ball. We're playing with an energy that's, that wasn't there at the beginning, but now we're hitting the stride. We're hitting a point to where, guys are leaning on each other. Guys are, holding each other accountable, pushing and pulling. And, the atmosphere before the game is so fun, man. Just being in that moment. But, everybody's waiting for their opportunity, man. And that's what you like to see. Guys are just ready to rock and roll, ready for, whenever their number's called, and, playing as a unit, man. All three levels, D-line, linebacker, and DBs, all complimentary football, man. It all matters.
Well, speaking of opportunities and being ready for them, you had a few on Monday. I want to ask you about the sack and the interception. We'll start with the interception, though. Mm-hmm. Washington's moving right down the field, and then the ball goes off of Debo's chest, and you're right there. Walk me through that.
Man, that ball was in slow motion. I just knew. I just told myself to catch this rock and, try to get as many yards as I can. But, no, man, that moment, that's just, opportunity and, running to the ball, hustling to the ball is something we pride ourselves every day on defense, So that was just, tips and overthrows, me running to the ball, just hustling, man. And I was gifted one in my hands, and, I'm just glad I held on to it, man.
Like afterward, did you black out a little bit? Like,
oh, definitely.
Yeah, I held on to that thing.
As long as I saw the ball and after I caught it and I knew I secured the catch, I blacked out for sure. Like,
that's hilarious.
That was an awesome feeling, man. Those are the ones, you'll remember and tell, your family, your friends, your kids, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. We'll set the tone for the rest of the game.
Absolutely.
Now, I want to ask about the sack because football is usually really complicated, and then sometimes it's not. They just forget to block you, and you're just right there. Yeah. I mean, are you just like going after? How amazing is that, right? When you see them like that.
When you get those, man, those are sometimes the hardest ones because, you're unblocked, your eyes get big. You're like, oh, this is the perfect time. As soon as you get off the ball and stuff, but, had to make the layup, man. Those, like I said, those are the hardest ones. The quarterback has a good chance of trying to, dip or dodge or try to make a move. But, sometimes you just got to come to balance, come under control and, make the play, make the layup, and, celebrate with the team.
And Mariota's pretty slippery. Yes. It's just funny. He's going like this, and you're like, nope, not going to happen.
Yeah, hats off to him, man. He's been doing this for a long time, and he knows how to get out of chaos, and, he knows how to break tackles. He's slippery, man. A guy like him is not easy to bring down, So
this is the number 2 scoring defense in the NFL now, just playing really well as a unit. And it goes back to Spags at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. What's it like playing for Coach Spags?
Man, I've been saying it since day one. He's a magician, man. When you need something, he always pulls something out of his pocket, to stop the run or the pass. But, playing with a guy like him, man, you love it. He's a faith-driven guy, and everything he believes is about, faith and trusting each other. And, that's the biggest thing. You develop trust in these guys. You can put them out on the field. And, that's what our whole unit's, based off of, building on faith, principles, and, just being disciplined. Hats off. I got a lot of love for Spags, man. The way he runs things, the way he operates, and the way he, like, holds guys accountable. Like, he's one of the coaches I'm definitely, like, forever grateful for.
And last question, getting ready for Buffalo. Obviously, Josh Allen, high-powered offense. How can we slow down Buffalo here on Sunday?
Man, hats off to them also. They got the number 1 rushing offense in the league, so they're doing something over there, a lot of teams are struggling with. But, it's just a mix of the run and the pass, and, as easy or as, both hard as it sounds, containing Josh Allen and, Cook is, hard. And it's going to be a challenge for our defense. But, we're looking forward to the challenge, man, and going to Buffalo in a, crucial environment, atmosphere, and, we're looking forward to the challenge.
This has been the best defense in football over the last several years. This guy is a big reason why. Appreciate you, Mike.
Matt. Thank you, man.
So we've reminisced about the years past and the frequency of playing Buffalo. This year's game, I think, is really interesting, as they all are. And you're right, it's going to be close, coming up on Sunday afternoon late. But it's interesting how Buffalo has changed their approach in these 13 years, especially over these last 4 or 5. They, to me, have gone through the changes that the Chiefs went through in the 22 and 23 season. Yeah. This is a team that's very run-centric. Nobody runs the ball more than these guys when you look at the decision to run the ball. We know about James Cook and how good he has been, but they're number 1 in the league in time of possession, 33 minutes and 15 seconds. They're last in the league in quarterback rating of throws of 20 yards or more.
Wow.
That was the discussion about the Chiefs. In, like, what's wrong with Patrick Mahomes? Well, they just changed the way they're playing. And the Bills, to me, have changed the way they've played. And they want to keep that defense off the field. That's what I'm seeing in these guys.
I think when you have, like, a blue-chip quarterback like they do, you got to, at some point, have to go through a metamorphosis where if the guy doesn't have 50 touchdowns but you're finding ways to move the ball effectively, that's okay. And I think, the Chiefs went through that over time. And nationally, because of like fantasy football, people are like, well, what's wrong with Josh Allen? Well, maybe nothing's wrong with him. It's just they're finding ways to move the football. And maybe if they have a really capable run game, that makes him even more dangerous, right? Because you have to respect both facets of their offense. James Cook has been a revelation this year. The Bills lead the NFL in rushing yards this season with 1,151, and that's despite playing one fewer game than most everyone else. They've already had their bye this year. They averaged 31 rushing attempts per game, like you referenced, and Cook is averaging nearly 6 yards per carry. So if you look at their games this year, look at Carolina last week. Like when Cook is really rolling, they're really difficult to stop because Josh Allen is Josh Allen, right? But if you can stop the run game, you have a much better shot at it. And if you look at the Falcons game earlier this year, the Falcons did a pretty good job defensively against James Cook. And conversely, the Falcons ran the ball really well. So in this game, that's the number one thing for the Chiefs. You got to stop James Cook and this rushing attack. Maybe they still get some big plays here and there. Cook's a really good player. He'll have his. But you can't let him take over the game. And to the Chiefs' credit, they've been great against opposing running backs this year. Think about a couple weeks ago, Ashton Genty coming in, completely shut him down. Total non-factor. Last week against Krosky Merritt, total non-factor. I mean, he was the guy going in, and we're like, hey, got to make sure we slow him down. And we did. He had 25 rushing yards on 9 carries. Not sure you can quite get that kind of limitation on a player like James Cook, but still, keep him under like 80 rushing yards, you have a great shot.
Okay. The offensive line, we talk about James Cook, and the discussion would be, gosh, who's the best running back going into 2025, and Saquon Barkley after the incredible year that he had last year, and Derrick Henry and what we've seen going on in Indianapolis. But the offensive line for the Buffalo Bills deserve mention here. Of the 216 yards that Cook had in the game against Carolina, 141 of the 216 were before contact.
Wow.
141 of the 216 were before James Cook was contacted. That's the third most in the last 7 seasons in the National Football League. So Deion Dawkins, Spencer Brown, the pride of Lenox, Iowa.
You love Spencer Brown.
Oh, yeah, Lenox, Iowa, right on the Missouri-Iowa border. Connor McGovern, go down the line. Osiris Torrance, I should say. So the offensive line, James Cook, these guys can get big runs. They've got 8 runs of 20 yards or more. But you flip it around. They've also allowed 8 runs of 20 yards or more. That's to your point.
Yeah.
Because teams have been able to run on them and get big running plays. And only Dallas, Miami, and the Giants have allowed more 10-plus runs. The Bills have allowed 33 runs of 10 yards or more. And 8, as I mentioned, 20-plus runs, which negates the 8 that they've had with Cook and others. And so it's just interesting. Defensively, they're in a transition as well. Ed Oliver's out, so they've got to deal with that. But this is an offense that wants to stay on the field, have the ball, run-centric, use the tight ends, RPO game. They'll take shots at Shakir and going down the field. But this is a Buffalo team that this isn't Stephon Diggs running double-move routes and Josh Allen humming it down the field. This is and they're effective. I'm not being critical. Yeah. They've just changed. And they're changing, I think, a little bit to protect that defense.
Now, one area that isn't necessarily a positive for them that is different this year, and it's not necessarily a fault of their own, it's just total randomness, is they're not getting the turnovers.
I knew you were going there.
Yeah, because if you look at it, let's look at their turnover
But nobody
numbers.
talked about this last year.
No one talked about it except for us. We talked about it. They have 8 takeaways this year. Yep. That's 16th in the NFL. That's not bad. I mean, the Chiefs have 9 takeaways. They're right in the middle of the pack. They're +2 on the season in terms of giveaway takeaway. Again, not bad. But look at last year. They were +24 in giveaway takeaway. And
Matt, they had 32 takeaways.
Crazy. And they never turned it over themselves.
No.
Hardly ever. And we talked about this before the AFC Championship game. If you looked at their point distribution, 40% of their points last year were following takeaways. It was an absurd, unsustainable number. And the whole point was just don't turn the ball over against them and you have a great shot. Well, that's a random kind of thing that's going to change from season to season. And for them this year, again, they're not turning the ball over a bunch. They had 5 giveaways in their 2 losses. So hopefully create a few of those. But they're not really turning the ball over a whole bunch consistently, but they're also not really forcing them. So it's kind of more of a level playing field, right? And when it's a level playing field, a play here or a play there can totally change the game if you're the Chiefs. So in this game, let's keep that going. Let's create a few takeaways of our own and not turn the football over. And knock on wood, the Chiefs have been great about not turning the football over this season. Only 2 giveaways all year going into Monday. Now, Monday was kind of weird. The 2 interceptions to begin the game was bizarre. Don't think that's going to happen too often. But don't turn the ball over against these guys. And I think about the game in Buffalo last year, the opening drive for the Chiefs, kind of a broken play, and they picked off Mahomes in the very first series. Can't let that happen here in this game because every drive matters.
Well, and I remember the Greg Rousseau interception and Epenesa's interception. And when Epinesa had it against Carolina, remember I texted you, I go, this looks familiar. Andy Dalton goes, what happened to the ball? What happened to the ball? It was just eaten out of the sky.
Yeah.
But to your point, last year they only had 8 giveaways. That was the lowest in 6 years in the National Football League. And these guys this year have been like your high cap stocks. The first 4 games, averaging 33 points a game. They averaged 17 per game in their 2-game dip, and then 40 against Carolina. So it looks like the stock market here a little bit. But, again, it's just a Buffalo team that is different. Good, but different. And they, like the Chiefs, were looking up at the Broncos in the AFC West. And here's New England now that's a factor in their life that they really haven't had to deal with in these 5 years they've won the AFC North.
I think the Bills.
I'm sorry, AFC East.
The Bills and their fans are like, New England, you were supposed to go away for 20 years. This is our time now.
Yeah.
Like, get out of here. Like,
give us
what?
20 years. Just give us 20.
You're not supposed to find like a really good quarterback this soon after having Tom Brady. Drake May is a good player. And, you know, when you're thinking about year in and year out, the Bills are always kind of competing for that 1 seed with the Chiefs. Kind of glad we got a good team in the AFC East now to give them a hard time. I'm okay with it.
Well, speaking of the AFC West, we saw the Broncos put a 40-burger on their opponent. We saw the Chargers be really effective on Thursday Night Football, and the Raiders were effective because they didn't play. All right? They had a bye week. So what Ari Wolfe is our man. He's our sleuth that is keeping an eye not only on the whole league, but for sure on the AFC West.
Hello and welcome everyone to Week 9 edition of Out West with Ari Wolfe, and looking forward to talking about the state of the NFL, particularly the AFC West, with my friend Matt McMullen. Matt, let's start at the top. The Denver Broncos with arguably their most complete win of the season. They've now won 5 in a row. They played complimentary football. Nix was solid. Dobbins was solid. They do lose Patrick Surtain, and that could be key looking forward. But it's hard now to look at the Broncos at 6-2 and not say these guys are for real. I think for a while it was like, well, they keep finding these miracle ways, but I thought it was a pretty complete performance from the Broncos.
Yeah, they were dominant on Sunday. And before I jump into it, forgive me if I seem like my mind is wandering because I was one of those people that stayed up until 2 a.m. Central to watch the Dodgers-Blue Jays game.
And you should have. I mean, one of the most epic World Series games of all time. And we talked to Ohtani last week. And what he did last night, I mean, he's on base 9 times, 8 or 9.
Yeah.
Insane.
Well, I just love that the Blue Jays were like, no, you're not going to beat us. Nope.
Yeah.
Go to first base every single time. Even if it meant like loading the bases
Yeah.
or whatever else. Like, nah, you're not going to beat us.
Yeah, I'm older. The only time I can remember that happening when Barry Bonds was in his heyday with the Giants, and they would just walking them out of the situation. I didn't think it was interesting if Paje ever got on as the 9 guy. It's like, are you then going to walk him and put the winning run on second base? Like that would have been like off the charts crazy to do that. Well, but anyway, let's get back. If you're a little out of it today, it's understandable. It's the World Series. Back to the Broncos. I'm starting to believe that this team is pretty much for real. I'm not saying that they're going to win the AFC West, but they're going to contend for the division.
Yeah, to your point, I mean, I think it was fair to look at some of their wins earlier this year and say, all right, like that kind of recipe isn't sustainable, like having these miracle runs in the fourth quarter against the Eagles and a couple weeks ago against the Giants. You can't do that every single week. And to their credit, against a team that I actually think is pretty good, especially offensively in the Cowboys, I mean, they dominated that game. Knicks bounced back from the interception on their first drive, had a really nice game, threw 4 touchdowns. They were 4 for 5 in the red zone on Sunday. And RJ Harvey might be a dude. He's a good player.
Yeah.
And that combination with Dobbins, I mean, that's kind of what they're built around is they're going to run the football. And when they do so effectively, kind of opens everything up for Knicks. For the Chiefs in a couple weeks, when we see the Broncos, that's the top priority is slowing down that combination of Harvey and Dobbins because you can't let Knicks have the full passing game at his disposal with the running game working as well. And that defense played really well against the Cowboys last week. Again, a very good opponent. But you're right about Surtain. Let's keep an eye on that because that's a very big deal if he misses significant time.
Yes. All right. Next up, the Thursday night game. The Chargers manhandled the Vikings. I mean, they physically beat them up. I'm gonna talk about Carson Wentz in my final thoughts. I'm not gonna belabor how badly I felt from the game, but Herbert, quarterback rating close to 123, maybe his best game of the season. The defense only allows 164 yards. They look like what the Chargers want to look like under Jim Harbaugh. They found that balance, right? It wasn't Harbaugh just slinging it around. And I know they're depleted at running back, but they looked pretty balanced. And getting Joe Alt back was a huge difference. I mean, their protection was better. Herbert wasn't getting hit all night. For all the teams at the top of the AFC West, the top three teams were dominant this weekend. What was your takeaway from the Chargers' performance?
Well, you mentioned how they're depleted at running back, and that's true. But Kamani Vidal just comes out there and rushes for 117 yards. A couple of friends of mine were texting me like, "Did the Chargers have Earl Campbell on their team, just running dudes over?" And also there was a lot of times where he was untouched for 5 or 6 yards, just blowing the Vikings off the line. Really impressive performance by him. Curious to see if he can keep that going. The Chargers just find a way of like finding these guys who can just turn into like 100-yard running backs every single night. The pressure numbers are interesting because watching the game, it did feel like Herbert really wasn't under pressure at all. Like the Vikings couldn't get any push. I went back and looked at the Pro Football Focus like pressure numbers. So the Vikings blitzed him on 70% of his dropbacks, like classic Brian Flores, right? Yeah. And according to them, they got pressure on 65% of his dropbacks, but he was surgical. I mean, it looked like he was unfazed. He was awesome in that game and dominant. I mean, the Vikings were never really in it. So I think kind of what we predicted took place where the Vikings are going to blitz him into oblivion. To his credit, he consistently was finding ways to get the ball out of his hand and was just unfazed by that blitz. So they looked excellent on Thursday. I was fired up to watch some Thursday night football and root against the Chargers, and the Vikings had to ruin it for me.
Yeah, it did not go well for them. All right, the Raiders were off, so we don't have to talk about them. We're going to go to my game of last week, and when I tell you what it is, it tells you in terms of competitiveness, it was the worst week of the NFL season. I mean, there really were almost no good games at all. Like everybody was winning by double digits, with the exception of the winless New York Jets, who rally at the start. They were down 31-16 at the end of 3. They beat a Bengals team that we talked last week could be dangerous if Flacco was able to string together enough wins to get Joe Burrow involved, and then you got to worry about the Bengals. So the Jets thing really resonated with me because I felt great empathy for a guy in Justin Fields who I don't necessarily have any feelings towards. He's just a guy in the league. But the way he played down the stretch, I mean, his numbers were pretty good. He threw for 244 yards. He had a quarterback rating in 99. He also rushed for 31 yards. But if you saw his comments after the game where he acknowledged that he basically was a broken man during the week, he had felt like the owner had basically disparaged him. So you know what? If I had a hat on, I'd take it off. Justin Fields, you're not going to be a team that goes winless this season. So congratulations to the Jets and Justin Fields. And I hope this is a lesson for their owner. This is not how you treat players in the NFL.
I thought it was very cool that Fields went out there and played really well. I'm guilty of this sometimes too, particularly with these players that I don't know on other teams. But it's easy to look at a guy like Justin Fields and look at his career and be like, this guy has struggled, not kind of what people expected when he was drafted in the first round. It's easy to forget that they're human beings, though, with hopes and dreams and aspirations and goals for themselves. And I don't think anyone is more disappointed in his performance than he is during his career, right? So for him to go out there, despite everything kind of going on around him, on a winless team, and to beat a Bengals team that is coming off a big win the previous week, it's pretty cool, especially considering, I mean, they were down 31-16 in the fourth quarter, and then a Jets offense that can't score at all season rips off 3 straight touchdown drives to win the game. Just super cool. And also with the whole Nick Mangold thing going on, this is where like I kind of buy into the universe impacting sports, right?
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Yep.
what are the odds? I mean, a guy like Nick Mangold, who was such a great representative of the NFL, a great representative of the Jets for so many years, has a tragic sudden passing, so young, right? And I know at the end of the day, this is just a game, right? But for the Jets to go out there and to play in a lot of ways for him and to win for him, just very, very cool. Can't overlook stuff like that. So I thought it was awesome. The Jets got their first win on Sunday of all days.
Yep. All right, let's go to what's coming up for the AFC West coming up. I'm going to start Chargers at Titans, which looks like a layup. Here's what's interesting to me. So if you look at the Chargers schedule, they're at Tennessee, which we think is winnable. Home against Pittsburgh, which they'll be favored in. I mean, Pittsburgh's not an easy out. At Jacksonville, the Chiefs did learn, not necessarily an easy place to win, but I'm guessing they'll be favored in that game. Then home against the Raiders. So then they've got the Eagles at home, and then they've got to go to KC. But to me, it's reasonable to think that heading into that home Eagles game, the Chargers could be 9-3. And the reason I bring this up is just, it's great to feel great in Chiefs Kingdom. It's looking good, but there's no room here for a let up, right? Because the other significant teams have pretty soft schedules coming up. So this just seems like a walk in the park. It's the NFL. Who knows what can happen? But I've watched a bunch of the Titans game. I know we both got a little bit in love with them when they won at Arizona, but at Tennessee right now, it seems like a very winnable game for a Chargers team that it at least appears their offensive line is going to get healthier and healthier as we go.
Yeah, maybe I should try the reverse jinx here, where I keep trying to find ways that maybe these teams who I don't think are going to beat the Chargers or Broncos, I kind of find ways maybe they could do it. Looking at the numbers here, the Titans just kind of leave a lot to be desired so far this season.
Yeah.
And I expect the Chargers running game and Vidal to probably have another big game.
Yeah.
But it is the NFL. It is any given Sunday. And as we saw with the Jets and the Bengals, you never know what can happen on any given game day. Yep. It's funny when you look at like future opponents, you can say, well, their schedule's pretty light. These teams aren't playing well. And that's true. But I could say the same for some teams that they've lost to already. I mean, did anyone think they'd lose to the Giants earlier this year?
True.
Look at Buffalo, right? I mean, Buffalo, you look at their schedule and it's like, man, that's a pretty soft schedule, but then they lose games that you don't expect them to lose. So you never really know in the NFL. Maybe the Titans will surprise us, but I'm with you, at least on paper. The Chargers are definitely the team that I would expect to win this game.
Well, any given Sunday is an expression for a real reason because anything can happen on any given Sunday. Next up, the Broncos and a Texans team that is certainly underwhelmed so far. So the Broncos go in as a favorite. So they're at the Texans. Let me see who I got here. My handwriting is so bad sometimes I can't even read it. Oh, then they're home against the Raiders. Conceivable that when they meet the Chiefs, they're 8-2. Again, any given Sunday, but if they can go down and take care of the Texans, I don't think anybody's scared of the Raiders. The Broncos at 8-2. I scolded Sean Payton on this very show at the beginning for creating way too high of an expectation for the Broncos. Now, look, Bo Nix is still not Drew Brees, but the totality of the football team is pretty good. So the thought that when the Chiefs play him, they're 8-2. Now, granted, the Chiefs get to play him twice more, right? So right there, that could be the 2 losses, and they flip spots. But the Broncos have put themselves in a very nice spot, especially leading into a game against a Texans team that, frankly, has underachieved.
Yeah, I agree. I'll be honest, though. I do have more faith in the Texans maybe beating the Broncos than I do with the Titans beating the Chargers.
Is this another time where you're trying to convince yourself? Or is
this one I'm actually buying into. I take it with a grain of salt. I do professionally root against the Broncos and Chargers, but the Texans, as underwhelming as they've been, they're coming off a game that I don't think many expected them to win against the Niners. And their defense continues to be good. I mean, this is the #1 scoring defense in the NFL, only allowing like 15 points per game. So if they can come into this game and get after Bo Nix, maybe get some turnovers, and if Stroud can look like the player we all thought he would look like this year, we know it's still in there, right? Against the Broncos defense that could be down Patrick Surtain, they've got a shot. So this to me has the makings of like a rock fight kind of game. I could see this being like 16-13 or something.
Okay.
And if the Texans can keep the Broncos offense in check, I think they have a real chance. When the Broncos are playing like they were last week against the Cowboys, they're just about impossible to beat because that defense is legit. And if they're running the football super effectively, Nick's is throwing the ball well, very tough to beat. But if you can stop that running game, which I think the Texans might be able to do, force Nick's maybe into some mistakes, and then Stroud can look like the guy that we all know he can be, they got a shot. Maybe this is me just doing the jinx stuff again. I don't know, but I believe.
I like it.
Let's get it done,
All right.
Texans.
The Jags at the Raiders coming off a bye. What, if any, significant changes do you potentially see from the Raiders? Is this a winnable game against an inconsistent Jags team? And I think the Jags team has been really up and down at times. They certainly haven't figured out the magic formula for Travis Hunter. Trevor Lawrence is just having an okay year at best. Is this a chance for the Raiders to get right at home?
Is Brock Bowers coming back?
I don't know the answer to that today. I feel like all the injury reports don't come out usually till Wednesday to know if he's a full participant.
So the answer to that question will be the answer to your question, I think. If Brock Bowers is back, they got a shot because that guy is a monster. And every time I've ever watched him play football, I mean, he stands out. Like, that dude is better than everyone else on the field. If he doesn't play, I have a hard time believing they can get it done, just because you look at what the Jags have done all year defensively, is take the football away. They've lived off turnovers. And the Raiders, offensively, all they've done this season is turn the football over. So it kind of seems like a recipe for disaster for the Raiders. But if Brock Bowers plays, I mean, that guy is a game changer in every sense of the word. So if he plays, I actually think they have a chance. You know, maybe you have the bye week, you have a chance to kind of readjust and get your footing a little bit. Last time we saw the Raiders, I mean, it was one of the most dominant performances by any team against an opponent in NFL history. They just really struggled. But if Bowers is back, he changes things. Curious to see where the Jags go from here, because you could tell they poured like everything into that game against us. And to their credit, they won it, but they're 0-2 since that game. So do they get back on track here against the Raiders? We'll see, but I'll be watching that Bowers availability all week because that might impact my answer.
Okay. All right, to the best upcoming game of the week. It's no secret. It's the Chiefs at the Bills. I know I try to stay away from the Chiefs because you guys talk about, but this one's just too juicy to not talk about on Out West. This one really is a little bit different in the sense it's the time of the season that it comes, and it's sort of like the perfect measuring stick, right, of where both teams are. Because if you'd have had this conversation week 2, it looked like everyone thought Buffalo was going to the Super Bowl and that the Chiefs were done. Well, here we are, it's week 9. It seems there's actually more questions about the Bills than the Chiefs, despite the fact that the Bills have a better record because the way the Bills have looked over the last month. Anytime you have Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, they're both MVP candidates. I realize that's a side show, but I do think Patrick wants that MVP. I think that he wants to reestablish. I think he's gotten a little tired of hearing about Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. I just think that he keeps receipts. I think we all know Patrick keeps receipts. He doesn't necessarily talk about it all the time, but I think he keeps receipts. This seems to be a statement game. And granted, it only counts as one game, but in a rivalry like this, it just feels like so much is on the line, not just for this game this season, but ultimately how these franchises are judged during the Mahomes and the Allen era. If you can't tell, I'm excited about it. Tell me, what are some of the things you're thinking about heading into this match?
Well, what an opportunity this is for the Chiefs, right? I mean, and I'm with you. What a roller coaster of a season this has been so far, where the Chiefs start 0-2. And, you know, you and I and Mitch, we knew that we had a team that was going to compete and be there in the end. But still, I mean, you start 0-2, that's a hole you got to dig out of, and the Chiefs created that hole for themselves. Well, to their credit, they've now won 5 of 6, and they've beat teams like Detroit. They beat the Ravens when they still had Lamar Jackson. People forget about that. Beating good football teams and also beating the teams that they're supposed to beat convincingly. I mean, think about the game against the Commanders. They end up winning that game by 3 touchdowns, right? The offense looks as good as it's looked in years. The defense, even though it's not necessarily looking super exciting all the time, like in the first half against Washington, Washington's moving down the field, but at the end of the day, the Chiefs allow 7 points to the Commanders. I mean, this has been kind of the deal every single week. This team's playing great football right now. And like you said, you have a chance to go into Buffalo now and play against a team that you think might be with you at the end of the season. And it's a great opportunity, like you said, to kind of measure where you're at. And the bye week is right after this. So if the Chiefs can go into Buffalo, win this game, and then go into the bye week, I mean, think about how you'll kind of be viewing the season at this point. particularly when you compare it to how the season began. So
Yeah.
you have a chance to be 6-3 going into the bye, getting ready for the second half of the year. Just an awesome opportunity. It's always tough against Buffalo. Josh Allen is Josh Allen. James Cook is having an incredible season. Mitch and I have been talking about that. I mean, he's been awesome this year, second in the league in rushing right now. The Bills are really committing to running the football, and they're doing so effectively. But losing Ed Oliver is a big deal.
Big deal.
Like the Bills did in the middle of their defense. I could argue he's their best defensive player. So losing him impacts things quite a bit. I expect this game will come down to the final minute, as it always does. Hopefully the Chiefs come out on top.
One final note. I hope you remember a couple years ago when the Chiefs had to go on the road in the playoffs.
I remember.
And you and I were texting, and I assured you, I said, winning on the road in the playoffs is more fun than winning at home. And that's not to disparage all the wonderful people who are at Arrowhead. But when you work for an organization and you go to one of the hardest places to play and you win, that collective group gets on that plane. It's a feeling like no other. So here's the opportunity. You win on the road at Buffalo. You got the bye week coming up. That could be one fun plane ride coming home from Buffalo on Sunday. So fingers crossed that's what happens. All right. So to my final thought this week, and I usually try to make it kind of happy and leave everybody feeling all good. Well, this week, this is more of a little bit of a heartbreaker. What it has to do is how hard the NFL is and how heartbreaking it can be. And I'm talking particularly this week about Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is a guy, whether you love or hate him as a player, has always left it on the field. And he has had his career literally ruined by injuries. When he was with the Eagles the year they won the Super Bowl, he would have been the MVP. He 100% was going to win the MVP. Gets hurt with a few weeks left in the season. Nick Foles, you know the rest of the story. Since then, Wentz has bounced around a lot of places. Injuries have been an issue. Inconsistency has been an issue. But then he gets a chance to go to his childhood favorite team, the Minnesota Vikings. If people don't know this, if you grew up in either of the Dakotas, the Vikings are your team. Some are Chiefs fans, but by and large, that's Vikings country. So he gets to be the Vikings quarterback. It's a dream come true, and he gets off to a pretty good start. To watch the way that he battled with that injury, and he was literally getting his ass kicked. I mean, they beat him up. And that he stayed in there, you saw the pain he was in. Just what, everyone dreams about being a starting quarterback in the NFL. Not only is it really hard, but sometimes it literally just breaks your heart. And seeing Carson Wentz out there, and again, who knows if he'll start another NFL game? He's out for the year. What's the next team? He may be a backup for a great team that the quarterback plays the whole year. Just a reminder that your shelf life in the NFL is always unknown. To be grateful for every moment, every play. And while I've had issues with Carson Wentz's leadership in a locker room, what he showed me on Thursday night, the way he stayed in that game, battled, he will forever have my respect. And that's my final thought for this week.
Yeah, that's a good one. I was rooting for Carson because he spent some time here, obviously, and really good guy. And, stepping into that opportunity with Minnesota, seemed like McCarthy was going to be the guy there, but he gets hurt, and all of a sudden Carson's kind of thrown in the fire and has a chance to maybe be the guy the rest of the season for them. Who knows?
Sure. Yeah.
And just bad luck. I mean, that just stinks. And he could have taken himself out of that game against the Chargers, and he didn't. I mean, he kept firing. Dude has a torn labrum playing quarterback in the NFL against Khalil Mack and Tuli Tuipulotu and these guys running at him. I mean, so I'm with you. He has my respect for sure. And I hope he finds a spot next year because he deserves it. My final thought, not quite as somber. My parents, my parents are going to be in Buffalo for the Chiefs-Bills game this weekend.
Oh, cool.
So originally, my dad was trying to find ways just to spend some time with me, like on the road, because I'm traveling a lot. He's traveling a lot. And we figured out the Sabres are playing on Saturday night in Buffalo. So he was like, how about I come to Buffalo, meet up with you, and we'll go to the Sabres game? And I'm like, that sounds great. He wasn't going to go to the Chiefs game the next day. Well, my mom found out about this. And my mom is probably where I get my crazy football streak. Because as soon as she found out about this, she's like, I'm going, and we're going to the game. And my dad's like, okay. So I think I know, like, she knows what she's getting into with this. I'm not sure my dad does. Hopefully the good people of Buffalo treat them well. They will be wearing red and cheering like crazy for the Chiefs. Hopefully they're the ones that are happy when they're leaving the stadium on Sunday. But pretty cool, fun experience sharing it with my family. Hopefully the Bills fans are nice enough to them.
I think they'll be nice enough. And just to bring it kind of full circle, so your very first TV preseason at
Yeah.
San Francisco, and I remember, your parents being a part of the broadcast, and
Yep.
like we talked about football families, and I just think it's so beautiful that you're going to be there with your family, soak it up, enjoy every moment, because these are the moments you're going to remember in 25, 30 years. Yeah, you'll be looking at all those rings, and they'll look great. But the bond with the family, and I have young kids, and I hope you one day are a father. We're proud to call ourselves a football family. We are like that. We are like Sundays are for football. Like when our teams are playing, we watch. And I think that there's a connectedness that's somehow different than other sports. I'm not disparaging the other one, but the bond with a football family to me is the best family bond you can have. So that's going to do it for Out West with Ari Wolfe. Matt, you are the man. Good luck. Safe travels to Buffalo. And I hope the next time I talk to you, you guys are 6-3.
Let's get this win.
Let's go.
I feel like Ari's getting it. He's enjoying this role.
Oh, yeah. No,
The spy versus spy role.
He's loving every second of this. He's been talking about doing this kind of thing for a while. And all jokes aside, I think Ari loves being part of our team, which I think is super cool because, Ari didn't grow up a Chiefs fan, but Ari has been in the kingdom for a handful of years now. And I think he saw how much fun this was, how much fun our culture is to be around, and just being a part of this team, how special it is. And I think it's super cool Ari's doing this. He's having a blast with it. I think it's fun, too. I was telling him that, I joked around with him. I stayed up till 2 a.m. Last night watching that Dodgers game. I stayed up. I stayed up. I can't help myself. It was the 18th inning. I'm like, I have to see it. And then I wasn't even looking at the clock when the game ended. I'm like, it's 1:50 in the morning. But anyway, we're tired, but it's fun, and it was a good break in my day, so I enjoyed it.
I just expect when we go to Denver here in a couple weeks after the bye that Ari will be in some stockade. They will have found him and have him under interrogation.
Hopefully
like
not.
the Good Shepherd, yeah.
Yeah, but he wouldn't give in, I believe.
No, he wouldn't give in, but it just might be a little rough on him. So
Ari
anyway,
be like, hit me again.
Our Chiefs Kingdom spy.
Kingdom, baby.
He's trying to be part of an exchange
Yes.
That we have with the Broncos or the Raiders or the Chargers. But we'll close out this way. This Chiefs team, it's been quoted. You and I both quoted a lot. 28 points in 5 straight games is top 3 in the history of the franchise. What I really like about this team, though, right now is the fact that the red zone, they own the red zone. They were 4 of 4 again in the game against the Commanders. They're now 5th in the league, but they're 2nd in red zone penetrations. Only Indianapolis has had more red zone penetrations. So the point here is when you look at red zone touchdown efficiency, you have to look at how many there are. It's like batting. I could lead the league in batting, but I got to get to a minimum total, right? And so the Chiefs have had the 2nd in volume, but they're 5th in touchdown efficiency. And right now, Patrick Mahomes, and he's going to different places to do it. I just don't remember when it's been this good in the red zone on this much of a consistent basis.
That's a really good point because Washington was like 2 or 3 in red zone touchdown efficiency, but only had like 18 red zone drives. So, yeah, if you have less red zone drives and you score on a handful of them, you're going to have a higher average than a team that has a ton of red zone drives like the Chiefs do. This offense has just been awesome, though. And how about the second half on Monday? I mean, Mahomes goes 17 of 19 for 210 yards and 3 touchdowns. His 21 offensive touchdowns now lead the NFL. He's now tied with Matthew Stafford with 17 passing touchdowns. That leads the NFL. And he trails only Herbert in passing yards. I mean, he's having an MVP year. I'm going to say it on this podcast every single week.
What happened
He's
to the
incredible.
whole he lost it and it's not same old Patrick?
Listen, it is irresponsible, the discussions and conversations and articles being put out into the universe after week 2. I mean, just honestly crazy to me. This is a team that is in the middle of a generational run, and all people want to do, if they're outside of it, is say, oh, looks like it's over. Listen, we've been on the flip side of this. I remember watching Monday Night Football, Chiefs and Patriots in 2014, and Trent Dilfer saying the Patriots weren't good anymore. I mean, it's hilarious. We're now living that life. And it's like, what are you talking about? The Patriots won the Super Bowl that year. So if people want to keep hurling the stones, I guess they can. And they can keep watching these games and seeing the Chiefs finding ways to figure it out. But Mahomes is having an incredible season. I mean, he looks awesome. And it's no coincidence he finally has his full complement of weapons to distribute the ball.
And defensively, the Chiefs are 2nd now in scoring defense. They hold the Commanders to 7 points. The stat of that game was the 24 straight points or 24 straight games. The Commanders had at least 17 points. That covers a lot of ground, and they hold them to 7 points. And now they face James Cook, and they face Josh Allen, and they face this really good Bills offense. That is going to be a clash, especially that Bills offensive line that is so good. But the Chiefs defense and Bills offense battle will be a highlight of the entire NFL weekend.
And part of that is for the Chiefs offense, keep pressure on that Bills offense because that helps our defense in the end. You look at last year, a lot of times our defense was excellent last year, but they were kind of hanging on. Like we have a lead here, and you got to protect it for a handful of possessions, right? Kind of the case in the Bills game last year. Well, the Chiefs offense at this point, the Lions game is a great example of this. Because they kept scoring and kept pressure on the Lions offense, they had to kind of get out of themselves a little bit. They couldn't run the football as much as they maybe wanted to in the second half. They had to throw the ball. Even saw that last week against the Commanders, where I get it, it's Marcus Mariota, but they had a really good game plan early on where they were spreading the football around, a lot of screens, bubbles, stuff like that, trying to run the football effectively. But when the Chiefs came out of halftime, marched right down the field, okay, Commanders then punt, Chiefs marched right down the field again. Well, you can't just hand the ball off when you're down 14 points in the second half. You have to throw the ball, and before you know it, the Chiefs' defense is off the field again because the Commanders got out of themselves a little bit. So, again, for the Chiefs' offense, that's why this is so important. And when they're putting up these points every single week, it puts pressure on the opponent, and that helps the Chiefs' defense in the end.
14 times the Chiefs have played the Bills since Andy Reid has been head coach. 6th time going to Buffalo, and it's this week. Now, Matt and I we were not interested or redoing our education in undergrad to go to the University of Buffalo, home of the Bulls, great school.
Not going to do it.
Or Canisius, the Golden Griffins.
No.
Or the Niagara Purple Eagles.
Thought about it, but no.
All there in Buffalo. But we do feel like we could get in-state tuition.